Today on the My Fit Tribe podcast, I'm joined by Nathan Brinkman. He is the founder of Triumph Wealth Management, bringing over 30 years of experience in the financial services industry. He specializes in wealth management, strategic philanthropy, and business succession planning, helping entrepreneurs and family business owners align their financial strategies with both personal and professional goals. Known for his comprehensive approach, Nathan simplifies complex decisions and guides clients through every stage of growth with clarity and confidence. Based in Madison, Wisconsin, he is also a husband and father of three. Hello, Nathan. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's always fun when I get to have my friends on because it's a little more personal and we joke around a little bit. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. Well, you're really not looking forward to it, knowing you.
Yeah. To those people who know me, I don't love talking about finances. I'll pay my bills and I know what I'm doing, but for some reason, which is what it's going to get into, is talking about money causes a lot of stress and fear, can cause a lot of stress and fear and unknown and uncertainty. So we'll get into how people can approach that. But let's start a little bit about Nathan, about how did you get into finances?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was born and somewhat raised in South Dakota. So that's the state right below North Dakota.
Thank you.
And my parents owned an office products business on Main Street, ironically, of Madison, South Dakota. So as a young child, we participated in counting pencils and papers and inventory. And our reward was pizza at the end of the night. But the long and the short of it is in the 80s, quite a bit of economic meltdown, and my parents ended up losing a lot, almost everything, which forced us to move to the Twin Cities. So we go from small town South Dakota to a very large metropolitan area. That's where I graduated high school. Eventually went to college at the Harvard of the Midwest, aka Whitewater, and graduated in kind of business and what we call organizational communication, or what is now entrepreneurship. So when I graduated, I was interested in finance, but I was really interested in the idea of leadership and just how do we manage through things and how we consult, because I really truly think that if my parents had better advisors around them, they probably would have made better decisions during that economic change, and they just couldn't get out of the way fast enough. So professionally, as I go through this, I have that in the back of my mind always. Is how do I help assemble a team of people so that we impact people, but obviously the families, not only just to them, but the people that they work with, the vendors, employees, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And there's so many different stages of financial health, that we go through with the different stages of our life. I mean, as I've mentioned on the show before, I was a single mom. I'm making $6.80 an hour. I got paid twice a month, and that first check went towards rent, and the second one went to daycare, and everything else went on the credit card. So I've been at that broke stage, where you can't pay your bills. And as a business owner, I've been at the how are we going to meet the payroll stage.
That's right.
So there are those starting points, and you get those pains during operation and during business, depending on the route that it's going to. So it can be very, very stressful.
Absolutely, and there are times in life where you're in business where you're successful and there's excess.
Right.
And then there's times where it's scary and stressful. So that's where I would like to say, in the context of what it is that we do, think about the last time you went to have your health checkup with your doctor, right? Most of us can remember that. But when's the last time you really had a financial health checkup? Like one of the ones that kind of, you check everything out, you do the stress testing, you make sure that all the numbers are lining up, you understand what those numbers are, cause and effect, that's what we do. And part of that is you got to have some muscle. And part of that muscle is the advisors you have, think like CPA, your banker, an attorney, M&A advisor, that kind of stuff. And what our company does is we put the heart in it. So we pump the lifeblood into those people, so everybody has the appropriate information to go do their jobs.
Okay, so we'll get into kind of that team aspect of it. So when you started in the financial side of things, did you know right away then that you wanted to focus on small business owners because of your history then? Or did that?
No, that was somewhat accidental, but somewhat just how God works. So I had a business partner in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And and we did very, very well. And my wife came to me in 2006 and basically said, "Hey, this is all great, but you're not the dad you told me you'd be. You're not the husband you told me you'd be," because I was essentially never home. So we did a good job of building a business, but I wasn't doing a good job of building a family. So the great news is my wife called me on it. And so I went back to my business partner and said, "Hey, I need to make some modifications. We need to make some modifications." And unfortunately, we just couldn't come to a viable resolution. So I sold out to him, and then started Triumph in 2007. Which, by the way, was not the best time in the economic system to start a wealth management financial services company, because if anybody remembers, that was kind of in the heart of an economic meltdown. So the good news is I didn't have many clients, so nobody was upset with me for losing money in the market because we weren't managing much at that time. But that's when I looked at, what is it that I really want to do? What are the passion? Like, when I get up in the morning, where do I lose track of time? It was when I was working with people that own and run companies, the risks, the complexities that come with that. And growing up in business, I knew that I had gifts and talents to help people walk through that, because I myself was a business owner. I had a payroll, bought and sold companies, real estate, etc. So I think it just uniquely positioned me, and that's where I just enjoyed spending my time. And not that I don't enjoy the other stuff we do, but especially in that area of working with complex situations is where I lose myself. It just, time goes by fast.
That's a good way to look at it, because you and I have had this conversation outside this podcast too. But when you are going through transitions, especially as a business owner, and you've built the business, and all of a sudden you have to make a change, like you were forced to do based on what, with your conversation with your wife. Like, how was that? It's hard to make a change. It's hard to do something different when you have the unknown.
And by the way, I just want your audience to know, like, do yourself a favor and go listen to Erica's When story. It's beautiful. And do yourself another favor, like and download stuff from My Fit Tribe, subscribe, because what you're doing is really incredible. So it is transition. And I found something a couple of years ago, and I wish I had the memory to do the, right off the top of my head, which is not there anymore. But the Dalai Lama said something that was really impactful to me, that every once in a while I have to pick this up and read it. But it goes like this: "Man surprised me the most about humanity, because he sacrifices his health to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recoup his health. Then he's so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result is that he does not really live in the present nor the future. So he lives and he's never going to die. Then he dies, never really having lived." So that's this really vital and important connection between, I think, wealth and health. And the game is changing very quickly. I mean, you've had several guests on your podcast that talk about longevity. Those of us that try to take care of ourselves, we're simply going to live longer and hopefully better. So can we do that healthier? Well, some of that takes resources. So you can't just go off of the internet averages, because who knows what's going to happen with you. So again, that's part of what we try to do, is get to know you as a person. Some people have a lot of longevity in their genes. Some people don't. But, it's not about what you have. It's like, what do you want to do with what you have?
Yeah. We spend so much of our core years, you're raising the family and you're working your tail off, and you really, you're just in sort of go mode. I won't say survival mode, because it's not always that dramatic, but, you just don't even take time to think about much than, getting the kids to school and going to soccer and paying bills and going to work, the grind. And then when the kids go off to college, and then you kind of have that next reflection of, okay, well, who am I now, or what do I want to do outside of the kids, because that identity shifts. And then once you get a little bit older and you kind of realize you're getting older, you're like, well, shoot, I have to figure this out.
Yes.
There are decisions you can't keep kicking the ball ahead, right? You have to actually sit and make some decisions to decide, like you said, what your future looks like and how are you going to take care of your kids? Because I know there's situations where, people pass away unexpectedly, and then the family has to take care of that. And from experience losing my dad, I mean, he had a will in place and didn't have an estate or anything significant to have to deal with. But when you're in that state of grief, you can't think straight. So you have to fill out this paperwork that, I put wrong addresses. It was just horrible. So there's that element of the healthy wealth process too, where you're making sure that your family's taken care of in that way too. So you talk about, you have your team, like you have the accountants and lawyers and estate planners and all this. Is that something that your company then will work together with other professionals in order to provide services for your clients?
Yes. So I like to bill us as collaboration experts. So the kind of my observation many, many years ago was, and I used to build our company this way, is we have silos of expertise, which is great. But when you go through things like you were just describing, when you go through your own personal financial and economic situation, and you're trying to figure out, well, how do I pass this on? Where do I want things to go, and how do I want to get there? That's when those silos, those walls have to go down, because you need good communication and collaboration. So oftentimes I step in and we're like expert information gatherers. And we're really spending time on the heart behind it. Like, what do you really want to do? What's your why? What's your purpose in the end? Like, what does this really look like? And then we collaborate with the other professionals to make sure that they have the necessary information, open the lines of communication, have that collaborative conversation, like everybody's in the room at the same time, so that we can be a real board to our clients and everybody's voice is there efficiently, effectively, versus clients at the do-it-yourself model that I'm going to go talk to my accountant. I'm going to talk to an accountant. He's there. I get depreciation, tax avoidance. I go to my attorney. We talk about legalese. Now I'm efficient. I have these trusts. But in the end, you have these, you have a game plan, you have a document, you have all that. But it very rarely gets executed because nobody's coordinating. And in the end, maybe it's the client, but oftentimes it's their family members that are left with these papers and these stories that they've never heard. Mm-hmm. So how do you go forward and make decisions? Well, that's what we're trying to break, is that pattern of good job. You have a will, you have a trust, you have somebody doing your taxes, but like, what do you really, really want to do with this? And your kids or your trustees, whoever's helping you with this, should be keenly aware of who you are. Like going back to our idea of the body, of like, you got all the muscles, okay, that's not, but what's feeding them? What's the bloodline that's getting there and what's pumping information at the right time so that the critical decisions are made. So for us, it's not like, what I observe, people don't get hurt by bad decisions. We're all going to make bad decisions, right? Intentionally, unintentionally, whatever. People get hurt when they don't make decisions or they don't take action. They don't follow through on those kind of quiet conversations or conversations that we know in the back of our minds or heads that we probably should be having, but like, how do we have them? Like, so that's where we come in, is help support infrastructure wise, put together modeling. And we also spend a lot of time what we call family constitution, really, really getting mom and dad, excuse me, really, really getting mom and dad to sit down together and build out their life story. Like, here's where we came from. You guys may not know this, but this was hard. And now we're here. Or like, we wouldn't be here because we got this and this and this break. Sometimes kids have a tendency to think, oh, life was so easy, because as parents, we try to hide the hard stuff from them. Right? And then we tell them these stories, but they're like, oh yeah, sure, right. So the Constitution is really important because it gives them the life story, like the genealogy, the where did you come from, which then transcends into the why. Because the kids oftentimes, when we transfer wealth to them, they're like, do I use this to buy a house or an e-bike or stuff that I really want, or, special dental work, or is it only supposed to be for special occasions? So when you go through that process, it gives that permission slip to the kids of like, I understand where this came from. I understand the heart or intent behind this, the why. So it just makes it much easier for them to then go make decisions and frankly, unlock opportunities for them. So not my favorite story, but one of the true stories that we work with is a very wealthy family in the Dane County area. And mom and dad, they were like your next door neighbors, had a lot of money, but not a lot of people knew it. And they were very kind and generous people behind the scenes, support a lot of things, to the point that, their kids didn't even know it. Well, one of their kids like had a business idea, but always was afraid to launch it because we'll just say it plain. He was a little risk adverse. But then when parents passed away and left him a bunch of money, he's like, so now I'm in my 50s. I don't have the energy I had in my 30s and 40s. And so that dream kind of died, not because at that point he didn't have the resources. He finally had the resources, but it just was bad timing. So if we could replay the tape, I know that mom and dad would have helped out, but there was nobody opened that conversation, or, because the kid didn't want to seem like less than, because his parents were so successful. So those are the kind of stories we're trying to avoid.
There are so many emotional triggers when it comes to talking about finances. I mean, on either side. I mean, for, like you said, wealthy parents who worked hard and, kind of hit it because that generationally, that's what you did. Or for the people who struggled financially and then just trying to pay the bills. I mean, it really, really triggers a lot of,
Absolutely. I mean, again, that's where, again, I didn't have great wealth habits in my family. My family and my wife's family both used leverage debt to try to get there. Well, that can be good, but it also can be an anchor around your neck, as it is with health. I mean, there's a lot of emotional eaters. I'm definitely one of those. I mentioned before, like when our reward when we did something was food. Mm-hmm. So I'm like a very celebratory person with food and alcohol now that I'm an adult. So I've had to relearn some of those things of like, okay, it's good, but that's not good. Right. And the same thing is in wealth is, like you said, it's emotional. Frankly, people would rather talk to me about their sex lives than they would what's in their checkbook or what their budget is. I mean, seriously, right? So, I mean, that's where we are as a society. Is this is not easy. And I have coaches in my life and they're like, don't use the B word when you're talking to people. Don't use budget, use life plan, life spending plan, that kind of stuff. And that's just how masked all this gets. And again, it's one of those things that we're trying to make it easy or put it in the dark and hoping it finds light. Yeah. I just think we have to bust through some of those things. And, you've had a lot of guests on your podcast that just talk about modifications. Well, again, that's some of the stuff we do. You're not going to get it perfect every time. Right. Well, let's figure out what modifications are necessary. So you keep going, you continue to do the positive things. We're looking for progress, not perfection, right? That's really important. Just let's see progress, not focus on perfection. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think back, sometimes you'll have a stranger say something to you and for some reason or another, it sticks, right? So I remember when I was a single mom working at the bank, and this older woman came into the bank as a customer, and I chatted with her, and she just kind of looked like into my soul. I remember it. And she said to me, she goes, one piece of advice. What did she say? Don't spend more than you earn.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I don't have any money to spend. So it's not, it is what it is. But for some reason, I can still see her like, staring into my soul, telling me that. And that stuck with me. And then never did I, overextend myself on credit cards or miscellaneous spending not that I am perfect that way either. But again, I think that progress, so if you're starting in your financial journey, to make sure that you are setting money aside and saving it for the future. That's step one, right? So, and then you deal with, as you build your wealth and trying to figure out what's next, again, progress, learn something from where you're at and how you can move forward to where you want to be.
Yeah. And I wish there's more people like the woman that came into the bank to talk to you about. Unfortunately, you got to think of like, what are the messages that we're constantly inundated with, right? So, just think about how many credit card commercials there are. Right. It's like, live free, go do that. And the stories are amazing. We're, floating wistfully on a beach, and it's just like, tap and we get this, tap and we get that. And that's, in college, they're almost predatory. Like, right. Open up this credit card, you get a free t-shirt, do this, do that. All you have to do is spend $500 and you get this. all of a sudden we see many of these kids just amass a tremendous amount of debt. And they don't really, nobody's educated them of a plan to get out or what to do. We've certainly educated them how to spend. So I think that advice was key. And I've heard you say it before, is you had a plan. You're like, my first check goes to rent. My next check goes to food. And if there's anything left over, well, goodness, there's not a lot left over. So I guess I don't spend it. That is not the culture that we live in today. We live in a very much immediate gratification. You just think about, like, what are some topics we talk about regularly today? Our government has a boatload of debt.
Right.
So, we're constantly, okay, well, I guess that's okay, because our leadership in Washington is not often trying to figure out how to problem solve getting out of debt.
Right.
In fact, they're leaning more on how do we spend more. I don't know how that works out long term.
No.
I don't think it ends well. It doesn't end well personally. I don't think it can end well for our country.
And same thing, Social Security was created so that people would have money as they get older, and we certainly cannot depend on that in order to provide us with the lifestyle that we want to have when we are fortunate enough to be able to retire.
Exactly. And Erica is not giving specific advice. She's giving an opinion, not being
correct.
No,
not a professional.
And seriously, I mean, that just, you're going to like stuff that we have to take seriously. And it is our responsibility. I mean, it goes back to, again, where I was excited to come here and talk, because frankly, I have struggled with wealth in a very positive way, worked very hard, built some things, got lucky, got blessed, all that kind of stuff. But my health has been, I just haven't had great examples. And so that's been a struggle for me, lifelong struggle. And it hasn't been until, the last few years where all of a sudden I'm 50 plus and the numbers don't go down, and I can't just lose 10 pounds in a week like I used to. So it's like, it takes work. It's effort, and it's focus, and it's awareness, and it's tracking things that I don't love to track. And you've been through that again, people go listen to her win story. But when you made that decision to here's my new self, I can't even go back to my car and think about this. I'm going to do it. And you were tracking macros and you're tracking all those things. Look at how successful you were in a short period of time. That's inspirational. Mm-hmm. So that's this tie back to going back to the Dalai Lama of I'm sure you were laser focused on it at that time, right? There's just things that had to go on the back burner. It wasn't they weren't present. It's just you were laser focused on that because obviously you had the results. But again, you can't do that forever. You have to have awareness and things, because otherwise your numbers creep around. So again, some of the, we'll call it fun stories that we have, again, doing this for 30 plus years is, we're sitting down with people now that have been my clients for 20, 30 years. And I look at where they are, and they don't even know, they've amassed so much. Okay. And then we think about, where is this going to be in 10 years? So there is an economic rule. It's called the rule of 72, is money will double every 10 years at a rate of 7.2%. So if we kind of take that out 10, 20 years, their eyes pop out of their heads, there's no way. Well, let's look back at where you were 10 years or 15 or 20 years. Look at where you are. So that's, again, goes back to that progress. But unfortunately, the same thing can happen with a scale. For me, is if I don't focus, if I'm not doing the blocking and tackling, all of a sudden the numbers go up over time. And it takes, there's just things that have to change. Well, that's why these two concepts of health and wealth are just so intimately tied. Which, again, thank you for inviting me, because I love to talk about this stuff.
Well, and I'm going to point out, too, that what they have in common is that the goal of what you do today is that your future self is going to thank you.
Correct.
And that goes for changing how you're living with your health-wise so that you don't get sick, or that you're strong enough to fight an illness or whatever, or with your relationships, that you put into it enough that you have a happy relationship, or your wealth, that you've saved enough money appropriately so that you can live beyond your wildest dreams and do the things you enjoy when you get to that point. So you really challenge everybody today to sit down and go, okay, what is it in my life that I want to make sure I establish good habits in order for me to have that version in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be.
I think that is such sage advice. And again, that, some of my best financial advice hasn't necessarily come from my coaches or books or whatever. It's coming from real life people. One of them I'll never forget during COVID is our backdoor neighbor was really having a tough time just with the whole set of circumstances. And at that time he was 50. And he just shared a story with me. He's like, I'm thanking my 40-year-old self, because he said, I remember at 40, when I took my 40th birthday, I'm like, what do I have to do so my 50-year-old self would thank me? And one of them was like paying off his house and having a certain amount of money. Well, he did that. So he had a lot of freedom and flexibility at that time because of what he did during his 40s, right? So was there sacrifice? Of course there was. But it gave him that freedom at that time. So that really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think you just called it out too, is like, what do you do today? What are the things you can do today and tomorrow that your 10 years plus self is going to look back and say, thank you. And we're not saying like, don't ever go on a vacation or don't have a nice car or don't go out for dinner ever. That's not the point. The point is like, what are the things that you should be doing? They're going to get to the things that you really want to have anyway. And you just got to buckle it down. You just have to buckle down and do it.
So what do you advise people? I mean, if you were to say in general, financial health, it can be very complicated because there are obviously different ways you can grow your money and different ways not to spend your money, different ways to spend your money that are going to be beneficial tax-wise, whatever. If someone's saying that going, I am not anywhere where I want to be, or young people are listening who really just haven't taken the time to establish good habits, like do like a top 3 things, like where to start, or if you're in the middle, to how to analyze where you are to make a step forward.
Yeah. Start with like a simple goal. Save $1,000. Like literally anybody can save $1,000. Okay. It might be in a week. It might be in 6 months, a year, whatever. Like hit that goal. And then along the way, like get a spending plan, track what's coming in and what's going on. So when we do that, we tell people, don't put on that filter. Don't change your habits. Don't stop going to Starbucks for a month. Anybody can do that. Just live your life for a month. Track your expenses very carefully. And what's going to happen, like your mind will automatically problem solve. Like as humans, we know the difference between right and wrong. We'll optimize. And you're going to look and be like, holy cow. So again, I have 3 children. My oldest probably has her first dollar from babysitting. She loves to go out to dinner, especially when we're there. So we pick up the tab. Our middle guy is very disciplined, so he'll save for stuff, but he likes to buy stuff. Our youngest guy is kind of the guy that's like, you give him $2, he's going to spend 3. That's just who he is. So I've had to spend some time with him, just kind of going through, okay, let's look at what you're spending. And for him, it's like Quick Trip is evidently by the number of and volume of transactions on his debit card is like his favorite spot in the world. And if you can't get a Quick Trip, it may not exist. I don't know in his world. So, but it was like one of those things we just had to pull down his bank statement and debit and like, Jack, look at all of these transactions that you've done at this one. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just this one thing. And at first it was justification, and then it was awareness, and then it was change. And he knew he wasn't aware. Once he was aware, he knew how to problem solve. Like that was the easy part. It was going through that exercise to get him just to simply look at his bank statement and like, check this out. Like, do you see what's going on? So that'd be my advice, is just save $1,000, get a spending plan, dig deep a little bit. And then third is like, you got to get into the saving for emergencies and opportunities, 3 to 6 months. Once you get to that point, the rest of it gets a little easier. But those 3 steps, like you get there, you're on a good path. You're on the start of a really good path.
So there's so much I'm going to quick dive into. So I'm going to correlate this again to the nutrition side of things, because when you are tracking your food, you see what you're eating. So if I'm sitting down and eating popcorn, if I'm tracking it, I'll weigh it, and I'll have that little bit. If not, I eat the whole freaking bag. because I kept sticking my.
We all do.
Right.
We kind of lose consciousness when we're doing that. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's the same thing with spending and those darn apps that you download and it's free this time. And all of a sudden you have these random Apple charges because you downloaded a service, streaming service or whatever. Those expenses too can add up so quickly.
Yes.
And they're hard to stop sometimes. You have to call.
They are. Absolutely. No, this health, it's the cool part is it's a very similar process, right? So if you're good at one, you're going to be good at the other. If you're bad at one, you might be bad at the other. So, and some of us are good at one and not the other. So, but the correlation is really strong.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, so comparing it to the tracking food, you're just collecting data. Yep. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You're collecting data so that you can improve as you move forward.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, I hired a diet coach or a food coach. And I'm not proud of this, but she's like, you have one of the most celebratory lives of anybody I've ever seen. Because we are entertaining our clients often. We're walking through our clients' big events like retirement and business I am blessed that we get to celebrate that. Mm-hmm. But at this flip side of I had no idea, when you eat nice steak 3 or 4 times a week, turns out that adds up after a while. Right. So it was until I had that awareness, I just lived my life.
Yeah.
It just turned into my life. So that's been super challenging. Mm-hmm. I still want to participate.
Right.
I still want to be there. I still want to do the things. But I just have to change my attitude. And I wouldn't have known that had I not
looked at the data,
tracked at it, and somebody be very honest with me of dude, you can't keep doing this.
Right. Well, and that's what a financial advisor does. They're able to be honest with you about things that you need to do and ways you can grow your money beyond your expectations, which is as you accumulate wealth, it's important that you have people in your corner to help you build that as well.
And a really good one is going to spend some time with you to figure out what your why is. I don't say this to be facetious or out of touch, but building wealth is really not that hard. Anybody can do it. That doesn't mean it's easy, but when you do that, people always want to be rich. Okay. And I would argue being rich is much more comfortable and fun than being poor. But it comes with responsibilities because people of wealth have a lot more opportunity. So there's a lot more things to say no to. There's a lot of things to say yes to. So, if you're not working with an advisor, it really helps you figure out your funneling system, the way to filter through things and to make sure you're focusing on your why and what your intent, what you really want your money to do for you and what you want that to do and impact for your kids or future generations, whatever. Again, I'm not saying that the market gives the market, right? We all fish from the same pond. I don't have I don't have the unknown stock pick of the year. It just doesn't exist. But what I think is different is a really good financial advisor is going to walk you through a comprehensive process and spend time on the heart, spend time on what drives this and really what is your intention and focus. So, my goal always is just for me is my last breath to die in peace of mind to hit all the boxes checked. Mm-hmm. But it's also the same for clients. And it's a hard process, right? It's people don't always love, I'll say they don't love my questions. I hope they still like me. They just don't love the questions I ask all the time, but we have to, if we're really going to get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just something about talking about finances, no matter what it is. It's just, and it's interesting that you talk about the why, because at each transition point, which I kind of referred to earlier, you have to kind of sit and think about that. You have to sit in that space of the why. What am I doing? Or why am I doing this? Or what's going to give me happiness? Or, it's not just about living day to day. That can be a really hard answer to find.
It is, but I guess here's a cautionary tale I would have. Is particularly in business deals, they can be very expensive when you're paying by the hour. And I'm not trying to pick on any, one profession or whatever, but, they're in the business of problem solving. And, when I work with my attorney on business deals, in the back of my mind, it's like watching the gas pump today.
Mhm.
It's like I feel that thing going. And I'm not like, I don't want to talk about touchy-feely things with them. I just want to like, how do I get this done?
Correct.
And therefore you short circuit that process when you get to you. So you like everybody knows we got to get to the why, but which one of these professionals is really going to unearth that and take that information and make sure that it's flowing to all the other professionals so that the actual plan, all the arrows point to the proper appropriate end result versus like just getting it done. Here's your documents. We'll go through it. You're going to forget about it. You'll come back to me 12 months later. I'll re-explain it to you. You come back 3 years later. I'll re-explain it. If we just did the why and you understood that and you knew all the arrows were pointing there, it takes that like, do you really have to know what subsection 3C says in category 5 of what? No, but it has to be there. You still have to do that part. And those professionals are really good at it. Tax-wise, same thing. But that's what I see missing in so many of these plans is we're in such a hurry to get the job done
Sure.
that we didn't really do the job.
Right. Yeah, and if you tell me what is in section 3C, I'll forget after 5 minutes.
Right.
Anyways, because as I get older, I can retain absolutely nothing in this frame. As people get older and their priorities change, and they modify their financial strategy based on that, how do you navigate? You talked about it a little bit, but how do you navigate them through that?
Yeah, so one is it's like truly understanding the numbers. So again, going back to the beginning of our process, like when people would tell me the value of their business, I'd be like, oh, okay, yep, that's what we put out. And they tell it to their banker and the banker believes them. And what we really began to uncover is like, they didn't really know the number of the value of their business, which was really a big part of their net worth statement. So that's what I go back to is know your numbers. That's what I would go back to is like, know your numbers. And get, especially if you own a business, you should understand like what the impact of that is. Like do your own internal due diligence report because someday it's going to happen either way. There's going to be something. There's a stress test coming. I don't know what it is, but that's where I would start is a true understanding of the numbers. Then you walk it through like a screening or a stress test of some kind. Second opinion is like, is this doing what we want it to do? So I'm an optimization nerd. It's who I am. So I love that part of the process of just making sure it all fits and works together and it's working efficiently. So going back to your example of like all of a sudden I have these subscriptions. Well, there's a lot of redundancy in what we see in that. So my best advice for people as they get up there is like, understand what is the true numbers? How does that walk through your financial life? And in the end, you're probably not going to spend all of it. So then what?
Right.
So, I mean, I can't tell you how many people is like, well, if I die and I have to pause and say, I've never seen anybody get out of this place alive yet. Evidently there's 2 in the Bible, but I haven't witnessed it yet. So we have to like have that challenging conversations. Like, can we all agree we're going to die? Okay. So we should really talk about what happens then and how do you want it to go? And do you want to leave a headache unintentionally, or do you really want to button this down so it's everybody can know their order, know their plan, know what's going to happen?
You talked about the business value because that's something I just want to touch on real quick. Is I see a lot of people that have built their small business and they work their tail off, build it into something, and then these big equity firms come in and snatch them up because again they're tired. Like they built it and they were maybe hoping to pass it on or whatever, or for whatever reason, that becomes very attractive. So I feel like we're losing the mom and pops to all these equity firms. And there's some good in that because there's opportunity for people to be able to sell their business and move on to the next chapter of life. But that makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, we're economically in a very interesting time. So, just think about when money is cheap. In the banking economic world, we call it leverage, right? So if I can borrow money at 2 to 3%, my leverage is low, so I can pay, at or maybe even above market rate and move into this. And then any of us, if we're smart business, we're going to optimize, where somebody left off and try to get as much as we can out of that. So what's recently changed is obviously interest rates have gone up. So I think we're seeing some slowdown in that, which means these businesses, you have to be top shelf. They're not just going to take anybody off the street anymore, right? So again, I say this tongue in cheek, but it's relatively true. I do get those Friday afternoon calls of like, hey, by the way, I'm going to sell this thing Monday morning because I got a plane ticket to Florida on Wednesday and I have 7 days of golf and I just want to make sure that what money's wired in my account. And, I was just golfing with my other buddy and his deal closed in 24 hours. And that's just not how it works. Right. So if you own a business, it's complex. There's a lot of stuff. So the financial side of it actually is the easiest side. It's and you've been through this, is like when you build something and you put your heart, soul, and everything into it, the identity changes the second you hand the keys to somebody else. And that's hard.
So hard.
So that's what we focus on, is like, no offense, but anybody can do the financial side of it. Again, there's only so many strategies, and I mean, maybe it's because we've done it enough. Like, it's not boring, but like, we know we're doing. The really exciting part is like, so who are you going to be Tuesday morning?
Well, it's funny you say that, like, oh, I'm going to go play 7 days of golf. And my first thought was, well, what about day 8?
Exactly.
You just have the day where you get up and you go, this isn't, like, I don't know what I expected, yes, but this is not what I expected. Like, I don't feel lighter.
Yeah, I mean,
in some ways, but
numbers are changing, but I mean, as of 2022, most business, 67% of business owners, 2/3 of them had regret post-sale. I mean, that's a staggering statistic. And that's something I'm trying to change one deal at a time. Is, how do I give enough of the movie so they can see the ending? And I think a lot of it starts from the beginning, is what we call due diligence. Is like, somebody, you should go through your own due diligence, because actual due diligence is no fun.
No,
like people, I call it the ugly baby syndrome. Is people come into your life and they tear apart your business and they tell you all the things are wrong, because that's what they're supposed to do,
right,
because they're trying to like get a deal. But in the end, it's like, you have a beautiful baby. Like, most of our businesses, they're awesome. It just, you should know like where your strong points are, where your weak points are, so that they can't like intentionally or unintentionally pull the wool over your eyes.
Right.
But that's what they're going to do. So you want somebody on your side, that's on your team, to kind of to tell you that, right? And the strategy and the finance, all that stuff will come out. And that's why you work with multiple professionals. So everybody kind of has their 2 cents in. So you should have peace of mind and like, I have the right structure. But then but nobody is spending time on the, well,
what's next?
Who are you? Yeah. What your identity, and what are the things that, bits, pieces, parts of your business you may want to take with you. It just, that's where I get a rush, right? It's also very difficult and challenging because there's not a lot of people that do that, particularly here in the Midwest. So when I talk about this, they're like, oh well, I got it. And, I'll be cool. Like, if I have enough money, who cares? Well, it turns out if you have a value system where your your personal health and mentality and all that kind of stuff is higher than money, it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
If your highest priority is money, you may be right.
Yeah.
But I probably won't be working with you.
Right. Yeah, really, I've talked about that several times. It's just the shock over the grief process after, and that just it was tremendous.
And it's embarrassing, right? I mean, think about all the dreams that came true.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the subsequent decisions you've been able, like, you have some amazing views.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we're very blessed.
And that would only happen, right, if you did what you did. So it's not bad. It's just, it's that process that if somebody could have walked you through, okay, Erica, here's kind of the stages of grief, and here's the things you should do. And, people are surprised, but oftentimes I'm stepping in and I'm saying, stop decision making. So the process that you went through, after your dad's passing, right? Somebody should have stepped in and said, slow down. Just don't
try telling me to slow down.
Understand, but at the same point in time, like when a woman steps in front of you at a bank teller and gives you advice, and it resonates with you, you're going to do it.
Right.
So if somebody stepped in and said, Erica, there's way too many, just stop. Don't make lifelong decisions. Don't loan money to your cousin. Don't start another business, right? Just let this happen for a few minutes until you get like the clarity. Let the the fog clear,
Right.
you're going to feel better about yourself, right? Again, I think that's part of the regret. People go from returning 100 emails a day, but all of a sudden their phone's dead. They're like looking at it, shaking it. Does this thing work? And that's what they wanted.
Right.
But then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Am I important anymore? Does anybody love me? Like, I probably should be doing something, right? And then they go and they do things they know they shouldn't, but in absence of something else, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I just don't think you could have told me that prior to doing it, and I wouldn't get it.
Of course.
Like most things in life, you really don't get it until you've been there. But anybody who's going through that, and there's grief in so many different areas of our life, and that we just really, like you said, have to kind of sit with it for a bit before we make some big decisions.
But it also unlocks so many cool opportunities, right? So I remember like one of my personal first wins in real estate, like our goal, frankly, in doing that was to pay for our kids' college education. Okay. It's a gift I wanted to give my kids. I didn't have. And I, it was in real estate. Like, I'll never forget, my attorney was like, Nathan, you're too much of a nice guy to be a developer. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no nice developers. And I was like, well, turns out he was right. And I used that advice at the very end. Because as you know, in most real estate development deals, like you don't make any money in the beginning. Like all the money's out, right? Your pockets are empty, and you're hoping that the last maybe 25 to 30% sells at what you think it is, because that's where you make all your money.
Right.
And that is what ended up happening for us. But I got to tell you, like three quarters of the way through that process, like I had to turn into a little bit of an a-hole, because it was just take. I'm like, wait a minute, this is like, I am not like Donald Trump with gazillions of dollars that I could just do whatever I want to do. So yeah, that was, but I wouldn't have thought that way, because my thing is like, well, if you're just nice to people and if you do the right thing, it works out. Well, it turns out that you kind of have to protect your own backyard. Yeah. And that was not a natural thought for me. Right. But had my attorney not said that in the very beginning, it would have turned out very different.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how experiences like that can open your eyes a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm happy we went through it. Yeah. But I kind of had to stand my ground. But I had never done that before.
Right. Good for you.
Kids got out of college without debt.
See, awesome.
Check, goal achieved.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch base a little bit on all the stuff that you do outside of your job, because you do a lot to give back to the community. You feed a lot of people. Can you talk about that, your recent venture, and then we'll touch base on Joey's as well?
Oh boy. So one of the gifts that my parents did give to me is, to be aware of your community, to be involved in your community. So as Chris and I went through a lot of really tough times, and we've also went through some pretty spectacular, amazing moments as well. And so we just believe to whom much is given, much is expected. And part of our mission is to feed kids. So we've had the opportunity to be a part of a particular organization. It's called Feed My Starving Children. We've been able to go to their mission field and see these kids that, they're walking miles to go get water. They wake up every day wondering, like, am I going to be able to eat? And when you do that, there's no space to dream. So we knew at that minute when we saw that we had to do something. So we've organized part of our community to help feed kids so that they can unlock that channel in their brain to really dream and think. And so when you're talking to a 7-year-old kid and they say, I want to be a doctor, and in the background is the most god-awful poverty and lack of hope, but man, you get their tummy full, it changes, right? So that's part of our passion. A big part of what it is we do. We also try to be really active members in our church. We believe in that community. And then one of our mutual passions is Logan's Hearts and Smiles. And there's an infectious guy, Joe, And we just fell in love with him and what he's doing. So again, it goes back to, in our minds, kids that need help to be able to live. And so it's really simple. It's easy for us to be able to plug into that stuff. So we're really passionate about feeding kids, helping kids that just need that step up so that they can live a life of hope and the ability to unlock dreams.
You can see and you can feel your passion and emotion. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the show, but when I was young, I was blessed to become best friends with Snow. Her name was Snow, and her dad was Madison Santa Claus. And anybody who grew up in Madison in the 80s remembered we'd be in the holiday parade, and we would go to hospitals and the Civic Center. And from a very young age, I was blessed to have an opportunity to volunteer with them and spend time with kids. And that molded who I am very much, because I found joy in helping others. And again, at that very young age, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. I was, through senior year in high school.
Absolutely.
And I think that, we talk about wealth and, money and the material side that things can buy, but really where you are wealthy is in your love and your experiences and helping other people. And that is truly where we all need to remember is so important.
Absolutely. And again, go back to us, kids are evil, or kids are easy because there's so much purity in them. Right. Like the world hasn't yet changed them like that. That's when you, like you said, when somebody looks into your soul, when we look into, and I have a kid, it's so much more meaningful, impactful. And so again, another story that I like to share is we have 3 children. In our estate plan, we have a 4th child. Her name is Charity. And so our kids know about Charity. And I think that's just really important is if we've been blessed and our kids are going to be okay, it's part of, I feel it's part of our duty to help out those that could use it, need it, help it. And our goal is to do it obviously while we're here, but also if we're not able to spend it all, that, it goes to our fourth favorite kid.
That's pretty darn cool. Mm-hmm. So before I wrap up with my last question, I would like, can you share how people can find you at Triumph if they're interested in conversation about that?
Oh, thank you so much for that. So the easiest, I think, is to go to Triumph Wealth, TRIUMPH wealth.com. You'll see our bio, but on the upper right-hand corner is a schedule a meeting. I love to provide second opinions. So it's kind of one of those no obligation things. It's just, we'll do some observations. We come unarmed. We don't present products. It's a getting to know you phase. We're not a great fit for everyone, nor is everybody a great fit for us. But, we're willing to have that conversation to at least provide, opportunities and observations so that they at least get a purview of here's where you are and here's kind of professionally what we see happening.
Very good. So we'll put the link for that in the bio as well. So I'm going to wrap up, Nathan, today by asking you my last questions, which I think, I ask these questions for a reason. For me, when I had to reflect on those moments, it was me looking back at a version of me in the past. So if you, Nathan, today could look back and have a conversation with your past self, you can pick one that really strikes a chord in a good way for you. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give your past self?
Oh, this is easy. There's a restaurateur business owner in town, and he's been a great mentor to me, but I'll never forget a couple of years ago, I'm a perfectionist. I'm just really hard on myself. And I was discussing with him my frustration of myself and how I missed a couple of things. And he kind of just sat back and crossed his arms. He said, Nathan, you have to be more kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. And looking back, I wish I was more kind to myself. My inner thoughts were much more sharp and critical versus hey man, take it easy on yourself. You're actually not doing too bad. You're doing the things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. So it's simple for me. It's just, I need to be more kind to myself.
So now you, Nathan, today can have a talk with your future self. So we've talked this whole entire podcast episode about where you started, where you are, and where you want to be. So you can picture where you are sitting next to him, having a conversation. What would you ask him? And what do you think he would say back to you?
Oh, wow. I have all kinds of questions. I'm pretty sure that I'm just gonna like collapse and be like, I'm so sorry. I know I could have been better.
There, use your kindness to yourself.
um, yeah, um, I to be very honest with you, and this is like spatially real. Like today is like, did I do what you wanted me to do? You know, was I thought, was I authentic to you and authentic to myself? Um, so I know he's going to be gracious and forgiving, and I believe that, but that's what I'm trying to work on is like being present, being truly present and authentic, and just enjoy the journey. Like I screw up, other people screw up, so what? But that is challenging, honestly, for me. Is just to enjoy the ride, be present. Like there's cool stuff going around me all the time. If I look, or I could pay attention to the little things that I think I could or should, or the kids, my wife, everybody could be doing better.
So your future self is going to tell you. So
Yep.
when you have those moments, ask him again. He's going to remind you, slow down.
Yes.
Live in the present.
Be present.
And enjoy the journey.
Goes back to Dalai Lama. You go through all this, you build wealth to spend it on health, worry about the future, don't live in the present. So in the end, we all die and you never lived.
See?
Yep.
So I think as of right now, I think we're all going to make a plan to make sure we live.
Amen. I love it.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.